You are listening to Claret and Blue, an Aston Villa podcast brought to you by Birmingham Live.
Hello and welcome to the Aston Villa Facebook page from Birmingham Live. My name is Matt Davis, filling in for Dan Rowlinson this week, and we are joined by our Villa correspondent Ash Preece. Ash, hello, how are you?
Yeah, all good, mate. Yeah, fine. The pubs are opening, the barbers are opening.
Yeah,
and,
I know.
The world's a better place. Not a hint at your hair, Matt, but yeah, I need to get mine.
No offence taken. I think that I shall be. As soon as I've done this, I'm going to use my lunch hour to see if I can sneak in at the barbers. I live very near one. I live nearer a pub than a barber's, but I'm going to go for the barbers first, I think. That's what it's come to. How are you reflecting on the weekend, Ash? I think you were saying Villa fans are still a bit annoyed at the kind of the way the Liverpool game ended. Has your view of that game changed at all now?
It's softened a little bit. It was a bit sore on the way back. Given the manner of it, getting the noses in ahead, and they had a really good 2-on-1 situation with Barkley and Ramsey that could have wrapped it up. And then Liverpool got up the other end and score. Yes, tough one to take considering Liverpool were there to be got at. But looking back at it now, we're going to a place like that and should have come out with something. It shows progress for me. Okay, it was a defeat in the end, but there's promise. I know supporters weren't too happy with the manner of the display, but Watkins got his 12th for the season. Villa's defence was all right. It's just the final third of the pitch, struggling a little bit. And Liverpool's defence was shaky from the off. I think McGinn charged down one ball after 30 seconds and Liverpool's cab-back didn't want to know. So I thought, missed opportunity. I thought Keenan Davis perhaps could have come on and roughed them up a bit. So yeah, what could have been performance, to be fair. But like I said in my debrief, I was there last summer. And looking ahead now, Villa are looking to be in the same division as them. So it's been progress this season. Let's not make no mistake about that. But yeah, 8 games left. We'll see where Villa end up,
Jason Kerr hits on one of our talking points that we were going to bring up. What's the news on Trezeguet? Some troubling reports from Egypt. What can you tell people?
Yeah, the club are not 100% sure on what the issue is yet. It's his knee, but reports in Egypt are suggesting he's done his ACL, which is massive concern. If indeed that is the case, we've seen with the ACL injuries of Tom Heaton, he was out for 9 months, and Wesley even longer. Wesley 15 months now, is it going on? So, yeah, distressing news, to be honest. Trezeguet left the pitch in tears. He was devastated, but he carried on, didn't he? Which is quite strange, really. He carried on for about a couple of minutes before he eventually come off. But he was challenged by Trent Alexander-Arnold that did it when Trezeguet perhaps should have gone down. He'd done his knee, felt a bit discomfort, and came off in tears. So yeah, I think his season's probably over now, based on the reports. But we'll soon see. I think Villa will come to light in that. But options, Smith's disposal now to change it up perhaps with Trezeguet out. So yeah, wishing him a speedy recovery. So we'll see where we go. But there's options there for Smith for sure.
Yeah, I mean, tell us about those options. How do you see him, changing things to cover for Trezeguet's absence?
Yeah, it's an interesting one. Obviously, the most obvious one's Anwar El Ghazi, who's been a bit off form of late. He come on the weekend as well. Didn't really light it up, to be fair. So he's the most natural replacement, I guess. Jack Grealish is still out for a couple of weeks, so he's not available. So I'd like to see a couple of the young lads step up. I mean, Aaron Ramsey, for instance, he's just one Premier League 2 player of the month. So, but like I say, in terms of the winger options, you've got Jadon Philogene-Badice. He made the bench against Wolves previously last month. He's a winger on form for the 23s. Louie Barry's another one. He played on the right hand side against Wolves the other week, and he looked really well. He's dangerous. 13 goals in his last 16, I think. So he could play anywhere across the front three. And then you could shift it up. You could have Keenan Davis up there alongside Watkins, or you could put Watkins out on the right-hand side. So plenty of options. Even a player Matty Cash, he could play high up as a right winger and drop Almo in or something like that. So I think there's 8 games left. I think there's time for an experiment. I think the European dreams appear dashed now. Villa in 11th. So what do? You have a look at your options? You try and shift things up a little bit and make it interesting and test things for next season? I don't know, but there's plenty of points still to play for. But I'd like to see some more unorthodox options for supporters to look at. So there's plenty there. I think bedding the young players in can't be a bad thing.
Yeah, I mean, I watched more of Matty Cash as a right winger covering Forest than as a right back, and he could definitely do it. Whether you want to take him away from right back is a different question. There's lots of questions coming in, so I'll just rattle through them all, Ash.
Yeah.
Two on the same theme here about how many players coming in. Jason De Freitas asked about how much can be spent and how many do you see coming in. Villa have spent a lot of money in the last 2 years to kind of move the needle towards where they want to be. Do you see that happening again this summer?
I do, yeah, because you've got players like Jack Grealish who want to play European football. John McGinn's mentioned it in his in-house interview. European football, every contact, European football. It's the buzzword at the moment. They want to get there. They're not going to get there this season, I don't think. So they'll be all hands on deck to make that possible next season and gate crash them European spots. Because the owners want it as well. So I envisage a big summer coming up. I asked Smith that very question: Will Villa spend big? He said no, not really. We'll make, if there's a good value deal to be got, they'll be there. But I think Villa will buy quality over quantity again. I think 3, 4, possibly even 5 new boys will come in just to bolster that squad. I made a big point of that at the weekend, given Liverpool's options from the bench. They brought on Mane, Shaqiri and Thiago, not bad. Villa's bench was pretty mediocre. They had 2 centre-halves, 2 full-backs, 2 youngsters. A loanee who's struggling for form at the moment, Barkley and El Ghazi. So Villa squad depth isn't there for me, for them to be challenging for the European places. So they've been punching up above the weight this season. It's been a big rise, don't forget, 17th to 10th. Well, 11th now, but stepping up massively there. So yeah, I think Villa's squad will be strengthened even further next season. I'm looking forward to that. And he's needed, Matt, for sure, given the owner's ambitions.
I imagine you've talked to death about this player, but I don't normally do these, so I'm going to ask you about Ross Barkley. I mean, Tom Thompson saying, why not send him back? I don't think they can actually do that contractually, but maybe do you kind of abandon the Barkley experiment and look at your own young players, or do you give Barkley another chance? Because, fortunes can turn quickly in the Premier League. 2 or 3 good games and suddenly, he's back in England contention the way things were. Where do you stand on Barkley at the moment?
Yeah, I don't want to boot a goal when he's down, to be honest with you. I don't want to give him too much stick because he's struggling for form at the moment. He's clearly evident at Anfield when he took ages to take a shot or to make a decision, where usually Barkley's speed of thought is his best asset. So he's struggling for confidence at the moment. So, yeah, it's not looking good for him, to be honest with you, Matt. He probably heads back to Chelsea. I think Chelsea would want to demand a big fee. They're not going to get one, so I think he'll go back to Chelsea, and then he'll probably look for another move. I can't see Villa actioning that on his form since the turn of the year. So, listen, his injuries got the better of him in the end. It really curbed his form, and he hasn't really kicked on. So, yeah, another what could have been signing. I don't think Villa fans will see him in the flesh in a Villa shirt ever, given the pandemic. So a shame, really, because obviously the lad's got magic in his boots, as we've seen first half of this season. But I think he'll head back. I think Villa need to blood their own. Do you know what I mean? And I think Jacob Ramsey's the epitome of that. So I think they're going to go with JJ ahead of Barkley to develop even more. So yeah, it's a sorry state of affairs, really. But I'm hoping he comes on strong. But he hasn't given the evidence to do that.
There's an interesting one from David Alford here about West Ham's wingers, Benrahma and Bowen, an area where improvement's seen. I mean, they both came from the Championship. Villa spent pretty big on Traore. And from listening, I listened to the podcast on Saturday, and Traore seems to divide opinion very much. Do you think, has David got a point there about quality out wide for Villa?
We look at the Benrahma and Bowen deals. I think it's 36 million. I think 20 million for Benrahma, 16 for Bowen. I could be wrong. I have to look that up. It's near enough 30 million quid there.
Yeah.
Villa's wingers, Trezeguet is £8 million. Don't forget, nowhere near that money. And Traore, 17 million, rising to 19 million. Bit of a big deal, to be honest. But it's his first season. Don't forget, he's showing flashes of brilliance, but lacked that consistency, which sort of wingers do. Of the positions on the pitch, it's the wingers who struggle for consistency, barring Jack Grealish, of course. But yeah, it's an interesting point, really. Benrahma and Bowen, Lingard's coming to the fore as well at West Ham. It's an interesting comparison to make, but I think that's an area Villa will strengthen in the summer. Wingers, I think El Ghazi struggled for consistent quality. He had that good month over the festive period, but fizzled out since. Trezeguet the same. Trezeguet's only scored 2 this season. They came in the same game last week, so it's an area Villa will strengthen in the summer. You could put Jack Grealish back into his number 10 position perhaps and bolster the flank. So that's a position for me that needs strengthening big time, Matt. Yeah.
There's an interesting one from Stephen Swaffer here. I mean, obviously, Ollie Watkins had a great season. Keenan Davis is an interesting player who has a lot to prove, but he made a good impact off the bench the other week. Would you consider two up front to kind of try and jumpstart the form with Grealish out, or is that just not in Dean Smith's DNA?
That's a great point you make there, jumpstarting the form with Grealish out. That's exactly what Villa need to do. Going 4-4-2 could be that, you know what I mean? I've spoken to fans over the weekend, just been out and about, and they said, why aren't you going two up top? Why aren't you going two up top? Especially against Liverpool as well, because their defensive frailties were there to be seen. So I'd like to see that. He did it against Fulham, and it worked really well. Don't forget, Villa came on strong like 15 minutes and pressed and strangled Fulham into submission. And there you go. They got the rewards for that. I think it's something that they should be trying. Dean Smith was asked about that a couple of weeks ago with Wesley coming back. So we go two up top. He goes, yeah, listen, I'm not scared to do that. Wesley can drop in as a number 10, but we haven't seen it from the start as such. So it's something to look at for the remaining 8 games and something to try. I think you make a great point there, jump-starting the form, because something's needed, isn't it? I think they've won 5 of the last 16 games, so not good reading. So it could just be the remedy, Matt, yeah, for sure. I'd like to see that, especially giving opposition teams something to think about.
How damaging do you think it could be if the season does peter out and they lose 5 of the final 8 games, say, and finish 15th? Because obviously you want to sign players for next season. You want to have something to sell the club on, don't you? How important is it they finish this season strongly?
Yeah, I think you make a good point there. Given the start of the season, they had won 4 on the bounce, so right up there. And yeah, turn of the year, they've lost 8 of the last 16. Just hasn't happened. That COVID outbreak really did affect them. 14 case COVID outbreak, bottom of the reef shut, and it's been a bit of a slippery slope ever since, to be honest. But they need to finish the season in some bit of decent form. But yeah, regarding the attracting players, I think not too much of an issue. They're still building around a good squad. They've signed up the likes of Constance now to long-term deals. Grealish, McGinn, Mings, Martinez has shown what he's all about. Matty Cash the same, Matt Target the same. There's plenty of success stories for this season regarding Villa's finish. But yeah, it would just be a shame for the supporters to see the decline over the next 8 games. But I think building towards next season now, I guess it's been a good jump since last season, and yeah, just building on them. Hopefully, get some momentum before pre-season starts, and they go again, get some good buys in, and they really have a good tilt at the European places next season. So it would be a shame, Matt. Yeah, but I think Villa are at the stage now where it's quite kind of comfy, and they're not used to that, are they? Over the last few seasons, they got promoted. It was nip and tuck last season, survived by a single point. Everyone a bit tetchy. But now it's cigar out, you know what I mean? It's chilling out time. It's mid-table mediocrity, but I think Villa supporters would agree with me that they'd snap your hand off for that start of this season. So yes, European football missing out, and the form since has been disappointing. But overall, the bigger picture, I think it's a good one. There's plenty of success stories there. It's a good side to build around. Watkins is more than stepped up to the plate, so he'll be even better next season, as will the lads who join. So all points to a positive next season for me. So hopefully they get some momentum from now until the end of the season.
You talk about exciting times next season. I mean, the buzz around young players is big at Villa, but specifically Louie Barry. Danny Barker asked about, will we see him next season or loaned out? A lot of players get loaned out, don't they? You go all the way back to like David Beckham going to Preston and stuff like that. Do you think Villa would benefit from going down that route with Louie Barry to the Championship? Probably.
I wouldn't say Championship. I'd probably say European team. I think that's the way he suits. I think he could go to the Dutch league or the Belgian league or something exciting. I think Chelsea did that with their youngsters. They send them out to the European leagues. That could be an option for Louie Barry. Played in Europe previously before for Barcelona. So yeah, I'm right behind his talent. I see him most weeks for the 23s, and just scores for fun. Just banging in the goals. So in terms of next season, I think he'll be in around the first team in pre-season. Dean Smith will have a look at him, see what he's got. I think they want to beef him up a little bit more. Still got to mature a little bit in terms of his build, but 17-year-old kid. Villa went all out to get him from Barcelona, and an exciting talent. Make no mistake about it. He's one of the most natural finishers at the football club. Just look at his goal he took against Liverpool, and he's been scoring ever since. So, in terms of his next season prospects, I think they should be ramped up. He's played with a lot of his teammates before, with the likes of Jude Bellingham at England level. Jamal Musiala's at Bayern Munich. He's playing every week for Bayern. So another one, Ansu Fati at Barcelona. He's playing every week. These are players who are Louie Barry's teammates, and he was excelling beyond them. So I think his first team prospects will step up over pre-season. I think Villa will have a look at it before the window closes, and I think a low move could suit him. I don't think the Championship, though, for some reason. I just think a European league where you can just knuckle down and get some starts away from all the limelight, and perhaps go to Holland or something like that. That could work. But yeah, definitely an option for Smith and Villa to look at over the course of pre-season for sure.
Yeah, you raise an interesting point there about the Bundesliga or something like that.
Yeah.
So many young players go and do well there at the moment. A few people asking you about strikers. Tom Thompson saying Odsonne Edouard there, and then Wayne here talking about Ivan Toney and Tammy Abraham. Do any of those names appeal to you, or are you even thinking of a different name that could benefit Villa next season?
I think it's Tammy Abraham. I think he needs rescuing from Chelsea. He's not wanted, to be honest with you. That's the brutal truth of it. Thomas Tuchel isn't playing him at all, and he needs to come back to a place where he's adored. So I think that deal makes sense, total sense to me. I think Smith, Purslow, and co will have a look at that if that can happen. He's not getting a look in at Chelsea, so hopefully Villa's relations with Chelsea have been okay. With the Barkley deal went well initially, so that's a conversation to had. Odsonne Edouard, I haven't seen too much of him up close and personal, so a lot of interest there. Arsenal, the latest to be linked with him. Villa have been linked with him continuously over the last 2 seasons, so I think he'll be a striker who's available at a big fee. So, 3 things have to align. That now the player, the selling club, and the agent. So we'll see. But I think Tammy Abraham, that's a standout deal for me. I think if that can be done, I think Villa should snap their hands off. He's still young. He's still got his prime to come into. He's Chelsea's top goal scorer, and he ain't playing. So I'll get him in. He's mates with everyone there, isn't he? Jack Grealish, big buddies with McGinn. He's played there before. He's loved there. So I think that works well. Just it's a perfect match for me.
There's one here from Rob Walker saying that Villa should go for Lewis Dunk. It's interesting that fans don't seem 100% convinced by a guy who's in the England team at the moment, and Concer's pushing for it. How do you kind of view Tyrone Mings where he is at the moment? It's an interesting situation he's in, isn't it?
It is, yeah. It's a good topic for discussion. I think the lads on the Claret podcast had a chat about him at the weekend. But I really like Tyrone Mings. Okay, he has a couple of ricks of late. The one against Fulham and almost on Saturday where Mo Salah slipped in. But listen, he's Villa's leader. I see him week in, week out inside the empty stadiums. He gets Villa over the line single-handedly at times. So without Mings, I think he's the pillar. He's the strength. He's the support for them all. They all look to Mings to see it out. And I think his performance at Fulham last week, where he forced that equaliser, making amends, that just says everything about him. So, listen, he ain't going anywhere. I think Villa supporters are right to demand a bit more competition in there to keep the likes of Mings on his toes and on his A game, where at the moment I think Mings thinks I'm starting every week regardless, and probably that a little bit of inconsistency creeps into his game in that respect. So a centre-back could be on the option in the summer. Bjorn Engels hasn't played for a whole year now, and he could depart. I think Courtney Horse will stick around, but yeah, I think Mings is here to stay. I really like him. I think he needs to improve certain aspects of his game, so they'll look to do that. But yeah, England international, rightly so. We just need to iron out them little mistakes. Otherwise, he's been pretty solid all season for me. So yeah, it's not an issue, to be fair, Matt. So I think Villa will bolster their attack in terms of their priorities this summer. Villa's defence, 14 clean sheets, not too shabby, mate.
You talk about what Mings does at games when you're watching in empty grounds. Is that one thing you've noticed from kind of pandemic football, that sometimes you might see a player slightly differently in terms of the way a manager communicates with him. And it's certainly different to what you get on TV, isn't it? When you're actually in a ground, you can see maybe a bit of movement from a player that the fan on TV might not notice.
Yeah. I mean, he's like the glue that gels everything together, Mings. He just demands more and more from his teammates. He tells McGinn, not good enough. We're getting exploited in here, John. Come on, help us out here. So yeah, he's managing the game on the field for the lads. So I noticed that. Really interesting watching him. He's part of the little senior setup they've got there as well. You know, Matt Targett, John McGinn, Tyrone Mings, Jack Grealish. They're the senior lads in the setup who have a big influence in the dressing room. So yeah, little quirks you see. Dean Smith arrived at Anfield with Jacob Ramsey on Saturday, and the pair of them had about 5-10 minutes together on the pitch on their own. And I think Dean Smith is nurturing him. He spoke after him afterwards. I asked about Villa's bench, and he said, "Listen, JJ, we believe in him." So there's talent there. So yeah, you pick up little quirks inside the empty stadiums and see who's around and the bench and people warming up and people's reactions. So yeah, you do pick up a little bit, but yeah, okay, Mings makes mistakes, but listen, he's such an influential figure. He's been a bedrock of success for Villa's season defensively, so you can't deny that.
We'll be here for another 5 or 10 minutes. Did you get any questions in for Ash before we disappear? One here from Keith Murch. It's probably an inevitable topic of conversation for the summer, Jack Grealish and the Manchester clubs. Does current form kind of tempt Jack to go away? I mean, one of the reasons for current form is Jack isn't playing, but is that a worry for you?
No, not a worry for me at all. I think he's going to stay for another season at least. I think Villa needs to kick on and show them they want to kick on. Hence why he made that statement back in September where he said he had a FaceTime with Nassef Sawiris and said, "I believe in the project that they've got going here, and hopefully that project kicks into gear next season and have a really good go at the gate crash in the top 6-7. That's what they want." And so similar situation at Tottenham with Harry Kane. If they don't qualify with the Champions League, he's probably going to go. So I think Villa need to kick on to show Grealish the main business, and for him to stay, I think that he stays regardless this summer. I think he'll, fingers crossed, he lights up the Euros and he kicks on big time for next season. So yeah, I think he'll be here next season. I think he'll want to stay injury free this time around, and just be even better and get more goals and assists and prove his worth once more. And I think nothing more than Jack wants than to lead Villa out into Europe. Do you know what I mean? So I think that's his aim now. So you want to test himself against him. So we'll have this conversation next summer, Matt. We'll see where Villa are at.
We'll probably have this conversation every week, I think.
Yeah, true.
A question about the Villa Park and stadium developments. There's some talk of the plans to improve it. What can you tell people about that?
Yeah, it was the first time the Villa have revealed that they're going to actually expand. So that was pretty interesting when they released accounts last week. So yeah, I spoke to some guys at Anfield because they've had the main stand completely redeveloped. I think they've doubled the size. They've gone from 42,000 to 54,000 attendance. So they've really bolstered that, and that was just one stand. So I can see Villa doing what Liverpool have done, perhaps with the North stand, like a lot of people have said. That's the obvious upgrade that based on Villa Park, and that's where Villa will go at. There's ample room at the back of the car park. Whereas if you look at the Doug Ellis, I think that's fine. It's on the roadway. I don't think there's any need to expand that. So yeah, I think all points at the North Stand being redeveloped. Perhaps there's talk of filling in the corners. We'll see. But I think, was it 42,000 now? I think they want to add another 10,000 onto that. I think tickets will be like gold dust. Build it and they will come is a famous old saying. And given the Villa's form this season, I think supporters are chomping at the bit to get in there and see the likes of Jack Grealish and how he's been this season. They haven't seen Ollie Watkins in the flesh yet. It's crazy to think that. And so, yeah, I think build it and they will come, Matt. And I think that'll be ramped up, given Villa are safe this season. I think they'll look at getting the plans in over the summer and putting a plan in place.
The Field of Dreams, that's what Villa Park is. There you go. Let's revisit Louie Barry quickly before we go. Dave Clawley asking, should he actually be in the team now and forget a loan deal?
We don't know, do we? Because we haven't seen him. We've seen him against Liverpool's defence in the FA Cup. We haven't seen him. We've seen him against Liverpool's defence in the FA Cup. He gave Nat Phillips the run around to score. Did really well. He impressed Smith in terms of his physical stats. He wore that vest the footballers do, and Smith made a point of his physical stats in that. So he's doing everything. He's incredible talent. I think they should have a look at him in some of the pre-season friendlies. But before then, going back to that question, I think chuck him in, get him on the bench, get him in and around it. As the season peters out, give him the odd half an hour. I think he's a Villa fan through and through as well, and he'll run into the brick wall for you. So great talent. Christian Perslow spoke glowingly of him. Hence why when all had to get him from Barcelona, big deal it was. Academy signing, marquee academy signing. So I'm raving about him because his goals record. He's scoring for fun. 13 goals in 16, could be even more. I have to double check that. But listen, he's a goal scorer, one of the most natural there. And give him a chance. He'll bury one, but I think he's an option to have. He can play all across the front three. And listen, I'd have a look at him in the last couple of fixtures for sure, mate. I think he's good enough. You're old enough, you're good enough, and we'll soon see. He's worth a crack anyway.
One last one before we let you go. We haven't broached on about goalkeepers. Tom Heaton's future is an interesting one. I think he means Darren Randolph there, Wayne. I'm not sure. But the question around backup goalkeepers next season is going to be interesting because you've got to get someone who's good enough, but is also going to be willing to sit on the bench. Do we see a change in the number 2 department there?
I was totally staggered to learn that Heaton only signed a 2-year deal, Matt. No, I didn't even realise before, but it only come to fruition last week when I asked Smith about Almo and Neil Taylor's contracts dwindling, and he said Tom Heaton's in the same bracket. His deal's expiring, so unreal, really. £8 million deal, and Heaton only signed a 2-year, so incredible. Regarding back to the question, I think Heaton needs to move on. I don't think he's going to get in. He's not going to get in. I think he turns 35 this week. Firmly behind Emi Martinez now. Emi Martinez is number 1 for many years, hopefully. And for Heaton, I think he's still got England prospects. Qatar 2022. I think he'll want to be amongst that squad as an experienced option. And I think he needs to play football. So I can see him moving on. To be honest, it'd be gut wrenching, to be honest, because Heaton's so well liked at Bodymarif. He's so well liked. Such a big character. He's always willing the lads on. He's such a great bloke. So yeah, there'll be a bit of a hole there when he goes, Heaton, but. For his prospects, I think he needs to leave. Villa want him to stay. I think Villa will offer him a new contract, but he don't want to be sitting on the bench. He's good enough to be starting every week. So I think he moves on. Looking at it, options Villa have. Jed Steer. I watched him last week for the under-23s. Incredible. 9 out of 10 for me. He's unreal. So he's showing what he's all about. I think he's an astute backup option. Elsewhere, Kalinic, his contract's still there, so he's at Hadrick Split at the moment. I see that being made permanent. So yeah, he'll leave Villa pretty wafer thin, to be fair. Martinez, Steer, and perhaps one of the young lads. I think there's a Finnish keeper on loan at Air United who's just returned from an injury. He was good, Sinisalo. I liked him, but I think a goalkeeper option wouldn't be a bad shout. Don't think Villa want to go down that avenue, but they might have to if Heaton decides to play first team football. So interesting one. Yeah, I've just seen Wayne Judd there, Aaron Ramsdale, which you mentioned there. But listen, I think Villa were looking at him last summer. Big money move to Sheffield United, wasn't it? 18, 20 million. They've got Martinez now, and yeah, the rest is history. So I think Jed Steer perhaps steps up and one of the under-23s if Neil Cutler thinks are good enough. But we don't want Heaton to stay. I can't see it happening. And I think it'd be Martinez, number 1, and perhaps a new backup, Matt, yeah.
Aaron Ramsdale's a bit different to Darren Ramsden, Wayne, but you didn't confuse me there. Right, let's give you one last quick question before we let you go, because it's an interesting one from Webb here about Buendia, Harry Wilson, I guess that is, Rico Henry, Cantwell. Owen here is talking about Dele Alli. I mean, how much money have Villa got here? There's a lot of good players, aren't there? Any of those catch your eye, and any of those realistic?
I'd love that Emi Buendia. I'd love that to happen, but Norwich are promoted. They ain't going to sell the star asset, are they? And I think Dean Smith's a big admirer of Buendia. I think Villa had talks before about getting him, but I haven't managed to get the deal done. Cantwell the same. I think Norwich are going to keep the best players to have a good crack at staying up. Ivan Toney, you mentioned there. I think he'll start at Brentford. I think Villa have done it in the Brentford market, but perhaps Rico Henry, a left back to give Matt Targett some competition with Taylor departing. That could be one that happened. Harry Wilson, you mentioned there as well. I can't see that happening, to be fair, but I think Villa know the Championship market's a good market for them. Watkins, Matty Cash have been great signings, but yeah, I can't see any of them happening, to be honest. Perhaps Rico Henry, the one that sticks out. But other than that, I think they'll have a look at Europe and scouting the market over there.
Right, I think we'll leave it there. Wayne's apologised. There's no need to apologise, Wayne. It was a good first question about Tom Heaton, so we appreciate that. And we appreciate everyone else who asked questions of Ash. Ash, thanks very much for your time as ever.
Lovely.
Fair. We'll see everyone soon. Dan Rawlinson will be back in the chair next time. But thanks very much for your patience with me. Have a good day, and we'll see everyone soon.
Thank you for listening to Claret and Blue, an Aston Villa podcast. If you enjoyed today's episode, then please do let us know. We love hearing your feedback. We'll be back soon with another episode, but until then, up the Villa.